Welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of the Business Matters podcast from the Wynn Technology Studio. Thank you to our media sponsor, Royal Credit Union. I'm Danielle Kummer, the Chief Financial Officer with the Eau Claire Chamber, and I'm your host of today's episode. I'm here with Harlie Juedes from the Wisconsin SBDC at UWEC. Today's episode will focus on preparing small businesses for the holiday season using key strategies. Thank you, Harlie, for joining us today.
And thank you for having me. So my name's Harlie Juedes. I'm the Interim Director at the Small Business Development Center at UW-Eau Claire. We also run a program called the Capital Access Clinic. So we help develop financial projections statewide for small businesses. And then also I own Snappy Car Wash. So we have a location in Eau Claire, Ladysmith, and Cadott. And so that's something that I bring to the table when I'm working with a lot of the small businesses that are in this community and across the state. And so with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center, all of our services are at no cost. We help with all general startup questions that pop up and then specialize in two specific areas, with one being the financial side, helping businesses seek funding or figure out what's going on the financial side with their business, and then helping on the marketing side. So talking a little bit about the holiday season, so the impact of the holiday season on small businesses. So we actually oftentimes see that this season is different for a lot of different businesses. So there's some businesses where this is a high period for them, where they're seeing that, this is going to be the time where they're going to make the most of their revenue for the year, whether that's e-commerce or the retail businesses. But then we also see businesses where this is their slow season because everyone's focused on the holidays, or, this is just the season, for example, like winter. So you're not going to be utilizing gardening services or anything like that. Maybe some of the floral businesses may not be as busy during the winter, or if you have a wedding business. And so the impact on the business could really depend. At this time, for those busy season businesses, they may be focused on marketing and how do I make sure the people know that I'm available for them, where the other businesses where this is their lull, we're really focusing on cash flow. How are you going to make it through this time? So it really depends on the business.
And inventory management, I'm sure, is part of that as well, and the importance of kind of balancing for both industries where their inventory is.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. So we've had some clients that work in large businesses like Target or PetSmart and all of those things. And so the larger the business you have, the more often that you're preparing for the holiday season earlier. So we've seen some businesses. So for example, we have a business that's a photographer, and she's already doing all of the photography for these large businesses that have ads for the holiday season in May, June. It's like that's when they're already starting to do all of their photography for those ads that are coming out for Black Friday. So some of those businesses, they've already been planning for quite a while. Granted, for the smaller businesses, they may not, they may be just now starting that inventory process and figuring it out. And that's where it's going to be really critical for them this first year to keep track of, how much inventory did you order? What are those things that you did this year? And then how did it work out, so that next year when they make those purchases, they know when to make the purchase, and then can be really thoughtful with how much they purchase, because purchasing this inventory is oftentimes really hard on cash flow, and then just really making sure, all right, do we really think that people are going to purchase as much as we're purchasing?
What tips do you have for small, medium-sized businesses, even larger businesses, for forecasting the demand during holiday seasons?
Yeah, so this could really depend on the small business that you're working with, but oftentimes one of the best ways to know how well you're going to do this year is to look at your financials from the years before. So some of the businesses that really succeed with forecasting demand are the businesses that keep track of their financials in the sense of the categories of revenue. So making sure, hey, if you own, I'm trying to even think of this is the moment where I'm going to struggle to come up with examples, but let's say you own a candy shop and you can keep track of how much of your sales was fudge and how much was caramel apples and how much was taffy. And then you can start seeing then, all right, next year when you're making these purchases or you're trying to figure out what demand will be, you can actually keep track month by month of your sales. Where the thing is a lot of small businesses, when they come to us and they're like, hey, I don't know what's going on with my numbers. I don't know why my business is struggling. I don't know what to expect. It's oftentimes because they're taking their revenue and they're summing everything up and they're just saying, I made $300,000 this year. Well, what does that mean? What is the break, like what is even making up your revenue? And so then if you don't know that, it's really hard to forecast. And so that's my best tip for small businesses going into the holiday season is now is a really prime time to make sure you understand your financials and make sure that you're keeping track of these things so that next year you are set up for success. And one quick shout out I can make too is through the ARPA grant that came for Eau Claire County, we were able to put on these small business clinics in the areas. So it's just free resources for small businesses. We host them at our office. We bring in attorneys, bookkeepers, and all those sorts of things. So we just finished all of those. But then with some of the excess funds that we had left, we were able to purchase financial management courses for small businesses in Eau Claire County to utilize. And so if there are small businesses that are struggling with understanding their financials or understanding bookkeeping and making decisions off of that information, we actually have courses that we've already paid for that we're willing to put these small businesses in. It's a financial management course out of the UW-Madison Small Business Development Center. There's some phenomenal CPAs and instructors who are able to help small businesses with getting through these financials and helping them understand their numbers. So that's available at no cost. Normally it's about $400 or $500 a class, and we're paying for that for Eau Claire businesses.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What about a new business? So someone that hasn't been through a holiday season, either this is going to be their busy time or maybe they're slowing down. Any tips you can give them on how to forecast what they should have on inventory or what they should be doing in this downtime?
So that's an interesting question. It's really going to depend on the type of business. I mean, oftentimes when you're first getting started, you're trying to be as conservative as you can with how much inventory you're purchasing, just because usually they're already running lean and they don't have much for funds. And so the best thing you could do is just keep track of your daily sales and keep track of your daily count. See, what is the interest? Is there a way that people could pre-order for things prior to making the purchase? Or is there ways that you can prepare demand, or at least make sure you are understanding what the demand will be ahead of time? But the hard part is oftentimes they will have to do a little bit of guessing the first year. And the nice thing though is if they sell out, I mean, that also helps from a marketing standpoint. I just think too, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Covizza or Leona's Pizza. The fact that they keep selling out of their product makes me want it even more. And so that's where I think there's something exciting too about selling out a product too. That's not something to feel too bad about.
So you mentioned pre-ordering and stuff. I know a lot of people do pre-ordering and campaigns on social media and other local outreach. Do you have any suggestions on how to utilize those tools to grow their business or campaign for themselves?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of different questions when it comes to marketing, especially since Sacred Heart shut down. We've had a lot of small businesses who are coming to us, specifically in the healthcare industry, who are saying, hey, I want to start my business. And they're really, really good at what they do. However, marketing is not their favorite thing. They're really wonderful at providing their service, but then they're like, oh my gosh, like I really don't want to market. And so marketing has been a really big topic, especially in the healthcare industry, just because that's not, at least with our clients, that's really not their thing. And so some of the things that we always talk about is, well, who is your audience? Where are they really hanging out? Are they hanging out on social media? And where are they making their decisions? So for example, with our business, Snappy Car Wash, the person who makes the decision is also the person making the purchase itself. So we're doing a lot of our sale or our marketing on Facebook, online, doing radio ads, all of those sorts of things, and we're likely going to continue doing that into the holiday season, as well as a little bit more of the EDM mailing through USPS. We've been seeing a lot of small businesses seeing success with that. So that's where you can print out postcards, like design your own postcards, and then you can mail them out through the post office right down here downtown for fairly cheap. And so we've been seeing, like, we have some lawn care and some businesses who are going into the plowing season, and they're actually seeing some really great success with sending out those mailers. When it comes to social media though, so as going back to that, we've been seeing the regular ads are doing fairly well, but if it's congested in that area, because a lot of people are saying, well, am I making sure that I'm being heard? Am I being seen in this area? Don't fret, I guess, is usually the main thing that we say to a lot of small businesses, because it's really, really noisy. And so if you have to get creative with your marketing, that is okay. So some of the things that we've been seeing successful is, all right, keep doing your thing on social media, but don't fret if you're like, oh, I'm only getting a handful of posts or a handful of likes or clicks or whatever. Something that we've been seeing that's been successful as well, are you marketing with a complementary business? So let's say you work in the baby industry, like baby photography or something like that. Well, are you connected with the doula? Or are you connected with the baby chiropractor or the video, the videographer, all of those different people? Are you making sure that you're connected with them? And then can you provide some complimentary services during the holiday season? Could you do some referral marketing? Is there some sort of deal that you can do in that way? And we've seen it specifically going back to those healthcare businesses, when those businesses connect with each other, because usually the client will say, oh, I'm coming here to my chiropractor and this is really helping, but I'm also still having this other issue. They're going to trust their chiropractor when they say, you know what, you should go try so-and-so. And usually that's all they need at that point. And so understanding that social media is super valuable, and keep doing it. But if you're feeling that you're not getting where you need to be with it, try other things. Try the postcards. Especially try the complimentary businesses, like working with them to see if you can develop a referral network. And then also just the basic things. Are you set up successfully on Google My Business? Are you making sure that when people search you, that it shows your hours, that it shows valid pictures of everything you have going on your site or on your Google My Business profile? When it comes to the holiday season, I'm just thinking all right, I'm an avid fan of Joseph's Cheesecake. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always looking through all of their pictures of all of their goodies to see what the heck do I want to order. And so one thing that you could do is on your Google My Business is put one of your first photos on there as one of your holiday specials. Like maybe it's going to be a Christmas cake that you put on there, or maybe, something like that. And it'll help get someone in the idea of ooh, I could come to them for that. Do you think that answers your question?
Yeah.
I kind of went all over the place there.
No, you kind of hit on everything, because you shared several ways of creating our unique selling propositions. So whether it's teaming up with another business to kind of sell together, it's updating your Google information, your social media, you really just kind of built on everything they can be doing. Is there any effective holiday marketing strategies? So maybe specific more to businesses that this is their busy season. I think back to some of the things I think of is all of the small businesses in the area that team up and they're doing these buck crawls or the shuffles or all of these things together. Have you heard of any of those or seen effective in some of the marketing of them teaming up like that to create their own mini unique events?
I've been seeing a bit of that. I'm trying to think what are the specific examples that have been really successful. A lot of our radio stations are doing a lot of give back campaigns, and that's been really helpful, because not only are you giving back to Feed My People or other entities, but you're also getting to, tie your name to that giving opportunity. And so those things have been really successful. I've seen businesses where they'll just pre-wrap your goods, and that could be something that's really successful if you're willing to pre-wrap it, if you're willing to mail it, and if you can make the gift be a surprise still, you add you hand deliver it. Those are things that have been really successful. I know too that gift boxes. So if there's some sort of way you could do a gift box, I'm just thinking too, one time a construction company that we were working with for our business gave us a gift box to Louise Finer Meats, and ever since. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love Louis Finer Meats. And it just, so those gift boxes are also a great idea too. And one thing too that we've been mentioning, we've been working with a lot of food trucks, and so they're done for the year inherently. So a lot of them have put away their food trucks for the year. Granted, it's still really warm out, so some of them are still at it, but they're trying to figure out, well, what do I do? Like, how do I make sure I'm still making some money? And one of the things that we've been talking about, and a lot of them are interested in, is, well, what about catering for all of these holiday opportunities at all of these businesses? And so there's a lot of businesses that are thinking, well, how do I angle my offering so that it's helping larger businesses with catering, or an experience that they may not have gotten if they just did a regular potluck party. So for example, we could bring reindeer, we could bring reindeer to a corporate event, or we could have elves or Santa come. And so like all of those businesses that provide those services, we're trying to market or help them market their services to all of these entities.
So maybe it's not a specific plan, but it's more of a get creative mindset with it. Really think outside of the box of what could your business do that you might not normally do.
Yes.
And what do you like? Like you talked about some of the things that you enjoy getting. Well, if I'm a catering business, why don't I try that? Why don't I send out a postcard to these businesses advertising that I'm willing to do this?
Yes, and that's the nice thing about getting creative is there people will come to us and say, well, do you think I need to do this or that? And it's like, it's not whether you need to do it, it's whether you want to do it. The nice thing about owning your own business is you get to decide. And then also, well, if you don't like to do it, are you charging enough? Are you not liking it because you're not making any money off of it? Well, maybe we should be charging more for those services that are unpleasant and difficult. And just talking about pricing here, but there's lots of creative things, and thinking, well, how can you do something during the holiday season that lights you up? Because when you do something that lights you up, you're going to make your customer even more happy, because the customer can feel that you enjoy that too.
Yeah, and that leads right into the next idea of how to enhance that customer experience, whether it's online or in person, and any ideas or insights you can have.
Yeah, so thinking both of just in-store and then online. So when I'm thinking in-store, I even imagine, I don't know if you guys are like me, but when I go to the Mall of America, one of my favorite things to do is just walk the first floor, because you can tell that each of them are really focusing on smell marketing. Even Festival does that. Like if you're walking the first floor of the Mall of America, you can smell each store has a scent. Each store has a different thing, and then that affects your experience in that store. So there's a whole psychology to that. Even think of Subway or even Jimmy John's.
Sam's and Costco, it's why their chickens are at the back of the store.
Exactly.
Because it draws you in all the way through the store. And so it's creating that layered effect with your in-store brand. Or your in-store experience for customers.
Yes, because I'm fairly certain, granted, I haven't talked to Festival directly about this, but I'm pretty sure over like those doors you walk in, there's a vent for the donuts. There's a vent coming right at me telling me to buy some donuts. So like really thinking too, what is the smell of your store? Because that certainly makes a difference. And you can actually buy products that can change the smell of your store. Think of how we all at our own homes oftentimes have those oils, or I don't know, I don't have them at my own house, but you can get all of those different. How do those, like, what are things that you can do that are aligned with your brand that make your location, whether you're selling products or just have it in an office in general that people are visiting, what can you do to make it so that it smells nice? And what are things that you can do from a sound perspective? Should you have certain sounds on, or should you not? Should you have, like, what about sights? So one of the things that we've been talking to about is, if you have a storefront, what does your window look like? Or even when you're working with Decky, one of the big things that they're really wanting to do, I'm thinking they just did a Halloween contest to try and make it so that people come down and look at all of these different window decorations. And so one of the big things that Decky does too is making sure that all of those trees are lit up. And how do we make it so that it's beautiful? And so people just want to be there. And then the more time that they're there, the more likely that they're going to make a purchase. And then I don't know, the last, is like touch, which I can even just say, like, from a touch perspective, we could even just go to, like, do you have samples? Are there things that people can check out and try? Is there, like, can people test things out before they make a purchase? What are those things that you can do from that perspective? And then online, I mean, when you're online, you're caught in the noise, and that makes things really difficult. And so that's where I would really I would highlight that you want to make sure that you are as personable as possible. So thinking of, do you have a bunch of stock images on your website? Maybe those stock images could set, do people really know you're from Eau Claire? Do you have photos in it that are showing that you actually live here? Like, is the bridge behind you, or are there visuals in your background of your images that make people trust that you're actually from this area? Because people really do want to support local. So making sure that you're getting rid of stock images, making sure that you're telling a good story, and two, this is where the SBDC can come in and audit your website and say, and can really just poke holes in it. Like, wait, as someone who doesn't understand your business, that isn't the technical side, especially when we're working with healthcare, let's not say that when it comes to radio waves and how the science works. Let's instead say, well, how are you solving my problem? And so that's something that we can always help with, but really make sure that you're not just explaining why this product is amazing and why your service is amazing, but what problem does it solve? What solution does it provide? So making sure that that's part of your website is really important. Along with, if we're talking about customer service initiatives or customer experience, also just responding to people when they reach out to you. I know that sounds, common sense to a certain extent, but the thing is small business owners get really, really busy, and so sometimes you forget, you don't realize that people are sending you messages. So just making sure that if someone leaves you a review on Google My Business or on your Facebook, or if they do any sort of comment, if you could just like it or comment on it or something, it really makes a big difference. We've really gotten into the habit of that as much as we can with our personal business, and we can already tell that we have some people who've become very loyal to us, and that's just because we're responding to them. So the more you can make sure that they know that they are heard, it's really going to be helpful. And then on the other side, if they know too that you are listening, you may be a little bit less likely to just get a straight up bad review. They may actually want to just reach out to you directly, privately, because they know that you will look into it and see how to make it better. Unlike ones where they say, hey, they're not really looking at things, let's just, boom, put it on their page. So making sure you're responding is huge.
So overall, beyond just the holiday season, what resources are there for small businesses for financing and grants that new businesses, existing businesses can take advantage of to help grow their businesses or start their businesses?
Yeah, so one thing I will say right up front, just because this is one of the things that most people reach out to us about, is, hey, do you have any grants? Are there any grants that you know of? And honestly, there are not that many out there. So locally, we have the Red Letter Grant that's available to women-owned businesses, typically within the first 2 years of ownership, I believe. And then we also have the Jumpstart Grant, as well as one through the Eau Claire Economic Development Corporation. I think it's called Idea Advance, something like that. The Idea Challenge, that's what it's called. So those are all grants that are available. Granted, they're typically $5,000 or less. And for the small businesses that we're working with, they typically need a lot more than that. For those of you who are listening, I'm sure you've experienced this too. Just the cost of land, building, product, all of those things are going up in price so high that those grants aren't. There isn't a grant out there that I know of that is going to be able to serve small businesses in these larger needs that they're bringing up. Granted, there are some which I highly recommend. If the WDC, we've got someone named Ray French who represents our area, our region, and there are some grants out there. So like, let's say you are looking to purchase a property that has some environmental concerns. Like, let's say it used to be a gas station, and so then there's these like tanks, and you've got soil issues. There are grants out there called brownfield grants, and so that's something that the SBDC can can look through and see, hey, do we need to bring in Ray to see if we can take advantage of these environmental concerns through a grant? That's an option. There's also every now and then, if you have a historical property, there might be a grant available to you. There's something called the CDI. Ray will be able to assist if that's a need that you have. And note too, so the Small Business Development Center, as I had brought up at the beginning of this podcast, we are available to help you with figuring out what are the funding opportunities that are available to you. And I know that I mentioned a couple different grants, but if there are grants available to you, and once we know a little bit about your project, we can usually do a little bit of digging on your behalf. And we try and stay up to date with what the grants are that are available to you. But knowing too, I would just really, for those who are listening and you're looking to either start or expand your business, just note that grants are really hard to come by. We will find them if we can, but typically you'll have to work with a lender to get the funding that you need. And the nice thing is that here in the Eau Claire area, we have a lot of really great banks here. As we know, Royal Credit Union is the sponsor, and they're a phenomenal bank to work with, along with a lot of other banks that are here in the community. I think too, we have colleagues. So the SBDC is at most of the four-year institutions across the state. And so I'm just thinking some of these more urban locations, like Milwaukee, for example, it's a little bit harder to get loans in those areas because it's harder for banks to make relationships with the small businesses in that area. So where here we have, some good bankers, and it's not as large of population, so you're able to make a relationship with your banker and like build trust, which can really help get your loan across the finish line. And just a plug for ourselves. So the Small Business Development Center. So typically when you develop, or when you are seeking out funding with these banks, they need financial projections, and those are hard and scary and difficult. And that's what our office does, and that's what they're trained to do. We've got CPAs and past lenders on our team. And so we just develop financial projections on your behalf at no cost. We are tax funded, so you do not have to worry that at some point we're going to pull the rug and charge you. That is not a worry.
When a small business is looking at getting financing, I know you said they need financial projections. What else kind of do they need? I'm assuming they need a business plan.
Yes, so it'll depend. And usually if you are a startup, they will typically ask for a business plan just because they're really trying to develop that relationship with you, because oftentimes not only is it about the numbers, but it's also about you as a person. Do we trust Susie to open said bakery? Is she, do you have a background in it? What's your experience? What'd you do before this that sets you up for success? Have you ever managed people? What's your experience in the kitchen? What are things that are setting you up? So that's where the business plan can be really successful or helpful and required if you are a startup business. Granted, if you've had a relationship with your banker and let's say you've been in business for quite a while, and like, for example, we work with hotels. Let's say you're on your fourth or fifth hotel. By that point, you may not need the business plan piece, but you will need the other piece, which is the financial projections, because they'll still want to see, all right, if you buy this property at said price, can you afford to pay the payments that we're needing on this loan? And so startups, typically you'll need both the business plan, so like the narrative piece, and then you'll also need financial projections. Later on down the road, if it's like all right, I'm buying another car wash, I'm buying another hotel, or if it's just on par with what you're already doing, they may not need that business plan. Granted, if you're in the hotel, or let's say you're in the gas station realm and now you're going to build a water park or something, well, that's very different. And so then we're going to consider that a startup, and we're likely going to need a business plan as well. So it'll depend, but I usually say, hey, consider writing that business plan, because it'll become helpful. And knowing too, so we have a business plan template that's available to you. Typically when we're working with a lot of lenders in the area, they're not wanting a 30, 50, 60 page business plan. They're wanting something quite a bit shorter than that. And so we have a template that we've created based off of lenders in the Eau Claire area and beyond. When we've asked them, well, what do you want to see on a business plan? What's going to set up your clients for success? What are the things you want to learn about your clients? And that's the business plan template we've created. So it's short and concise and hits what they're looking for.
So as we wrap up today, I'd like to highlight how the SBDC at the UWEC campus can assist small businesses during this period, whether it's financial assistance, kind of networking, all those things?
Yes, so as I've already said, we are here, and just so you all know, we're here for you when it comes to getting your business up and running or growing your business. We work with everything from a $5,000 request for an in-home bakery all the way up to a large sports facility or a cheese factory, or all, from all sizes. And so typically how we'll come in is when you're at a pivotal point and you need to grow or you need to approach your lender, we'll assist with financial projections. If you're in a tricky spot where you're like, geez, why do I not have enough money at the end of the month? Or why am I not making as much as I thought I would? That's where we can start looking at cash flow management assistance. Or if you need help figuring out, well, what type of marketing should I be doing? Or even starting with, well, how do I hire my first employee? Or what type of entity type should I be? Or granted, the larger a business you are, you may have some really different needs. And that's where we will tackle those individually. Like sometimes people are going into import or export, and we have consultants on our team that specialize in those sorts of things. Grand scheme of things, though, we're here for you when it comes to the financial needs. And then if you have other needs along the way, you can still reach out. We likely have a person that can assist you with those things. But then also just know there's a lot of opportunities available for you in this community. There's a lot of resources. And one of the things that's going to benefit you the most is if you can network and get to know who are those other businesses out there, who are those resources that are available to you, because then that's where you're going to be able to make, for example, like I mentioned before in the marketing area, how do I connect with all those complementary businesses so I can best serve? How do I find my customers? Well, oftentimes that's in networking. And so there's a lot of different opportunities out there. And I highly recommend, reach out and connect with your chamber. Go to those chamber events. There's other networking groups out there. I've heard good things about BNI. I've heard things about Polka Dot Powerhouse, but I don't know. Would you guys want to touch a little bit on the networking opportunities for the chamber? I guess now I'm interviewing you a little bit.
It's pretty awesome at the chamber. We have a ton of different ways to network and grow your personal kind of connections, and it really can be based on what you put into it and what you want to do. We have everything from our business after hours, which our next one is coming up in early December, which is a great holiday party where you can come for free and just meet other people who either have an existing business or who are looking to grow businesses. We also have our young professionals group, which is open to anyone 21 to 40 years old, which hosts a variety of networking, professional development, just fun activities to get to know other people. And then there's just our general chamber events. We're always including networking time within those events so people can get to know each other and collaborate or grow or just bounce questions and ideas off each other.
That's wonderful. And I'm even just thinking, so one of the things that a lot of small businesses will say to us is like, you know what, do other people experience XYZ? Are others experience, what is, they feel a lot of loneliness in being small business owners. And that's where too, not only are you connecting with complementary businesses, people who you could, grow your business with, but also just, hey, I'm not the only one who's experiencing this thing. And that's where these networking events are wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people assume that the chamber is big business, and the majority of our businesses are small business. So when you come to those events, you get to connect with other like-sized businesses and be able to develop those relationships to ask them, hey, are you struggling with this? Have you seen this crazy thing that's happening?
Just being someone who's opened up locations myself, one of the things that's most exciting is when someone else comes to your ribbon cutting. So if you ever see the chamber puts out something about a ribbon cutting for a business in your community and you're able to go, you should go, because that's going to mean so much to this small business that's starting, and they're going to remember that, and that then you get to be a part of that history too. So just as someone also that owns a business, and the scary part, oh my gosh, the scary part of opening said business, if you could go and just be there for them, it just makes such a big difference. So stay on the lookout for that too when it comes to it from a networking perspective, because it just means so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Harlie, for sitting down and chatting with us today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed coming, and thank you for everything that the Chamber does for the Eau Claire community.
And to the audience listening out there, as well as thank you to Royal Credit Union for being our media sponsor. A few upcoming events for anybody in the general listening area who may be interested in learning more about our chamber or growing their network. We have our Business Solutions Summit on February 26th, which is a great time to learn more about the business community and grow your own pathway in different areas, including marketing, IT, and general business information. I also want to invite everybody to attend our December Business After Hours on December 9th at the Florian Gardens. And lastly, if we're going to talk networking and growing your circle of friends, you need to attend Oh What a Night, the Chamber's annual meeting on January 30th at the Sonn & Tag Center. We'll see you in episode 11.